The 5 best TED Talks to watch before you start this new decade. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
I didn't like it when it looked.
Hey, welcome to the focus group and welcome to 2020. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. You can find us here on our video feed every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. live on Facebook and YouTube. Focusgroupradio.com is our website, and that has all our media, video, audio, and our other podcast called Unbuttoned, which you can get on Tuesdays. 20 minutes long, 3 topics. Call it punchy. It's punchy. It's fast. It's punchy. Just making the face like, I'm not sure if I like punchy.
Punchy's good.
So here we are, folks. Brand spanking new year, new decade. It feels clean. Everything feels clean. It's just all bright and new.
You think?
No, of course not. I walk around, and anybody that even wants to hear me say it, I'm always like this. Oh, it's a brand shiny new year. Feels a lot like the old one. The old one's just days away, right?
You're supposed to be positive.
I'm positive.
I want all positivity out of you.
I have, in fact, my resolution was to switch my motto. Owning businesses for many, many years, I've developed a motto, and I think it's seeped into every corner of my life, and I don't know if it was a good one. The motto is, plan for the worst, hope for the best, which is based on Ben Franklin, originally said this. But Ben Franklin said, hope for the best, or hope for a good outcome, and make a plan in case things don't go right. So see how I switched that? Now, plan for the worst is negative, negative, negative. Right. Hope for the best. Now you move it around and say, hope for a great outcome. Make a plan in case it doesn't go well.
It never really goes as you think, right? So
Exactly.
That's a good way. But I would like you to be a little more positive about things and happy on Mondays. Sometimes Mondays you're grumpy.
I've also changed my Monday. I'm now doing one of our tips we gave our audience last year is now I sit quietly with a pad of paper and a pencil.
Monday or Sunday?
Sunday night. I write down the things that I want to accomplish or that I'm supposed to get done. Not all in one day, but over the week. And then I take a highlighter and I say, I want to do this on Monday. And boom, I feel better. I wake up and I actually have things to do. So
it's been 8 days. Is it working?
Yeah, so far so good, yeah.
Well, that's good.
Well, it's not really been 8 days since this Monday. It's been, only 2 days since this Monday. But the last Monday was,
Did you do okay? Okay?
I'm doing okay, yeah.
Are you going to be, I don't know if I asked you this before, are you going to be doing a ride this year?
Oh, yeah. So
training for a ride?
There's a couple options. My friend Linnea is going to visit an uncle in Tucson, Arizona in February. Brand new house. She'll be there by herself with some friends that I know as well. And it's like a golfing, hiking, bike riding trip. I have to see if I want to do that. I've done bike riding in the Tucson area. It's pretty cool.
Is that where you saw the mattress stores?
Yes. Tucson, mattress stores, tire stores, and hearing aid batteries. Every corner. That was my impression, at least. And that's all there is to say. And the trip I'm thinking of doing is Girona, Spain. It's north and east of Barcelona. It's like cycling paradise. A lot of teams train there. And you go, it's a ride camp, so you set up shop in one location, and it's they call it out and back rides every day. So you come home.
Is it a week or is it a few days?
I would do 7 days. So it's 7 days is about 5 days of riding, and the 2 other days they encourage you to not ride because you don't want to be on the bike 7 days.
You do at night.
Well, usually dinner is at 5 or 6. Usually 6 when I was in Mallorca. It's a group dinner, and by 8 everybody's tired.
You have a drink?
Oh, yeah, you could have cocktails and stuff, but most people crashed about 8:30 or 9, and then you're up at 6 in the morning to get ready for the next bike ride. So,
shower before you ride?
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's an odd question. Why would you?
Because I know with rowers, you shower after you row. You don't shower before you row.
Ugh.
I bet a lot of those guys don't shower before they ride.
The professionals do, the pro teams, because I didn't realize this. When I watch the Tour de France here, it usually airs around 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's really noon or 1 p.m. their time. So they actually ride from noon to like 5 or 6 or 11 to something. So yeah, they're up early. They shower, they put on their kit, they're in the team bus, they do their thing. But anyway, I'm thinking of doing that. And if I don't do that, then the fallback would be to cobble something together out in Tucson area or something like that.
I'm just surprised to hear that you shower before you go out. Do you shower before you go to the gym?
Well, I go to the gym midday usually, so I am showered when I go to the gym. Yeah. Now, if the gym were close by, and
If you went to the gym at 6 a.m.?
I wouldn't know. I would just go to the gym.
All right, that's what I'm getting at.
All right, so this morning, for example, I got up and I have my bike attached to a trainer now for the winter, and I can watch.
Did you do that this morning?
I did it this morning. I got up at 6:30. I was on the trainer by 7:20, and I did an hour of what they call SST training, sweet spot training. So that's where I'm 90% of my functional threshold power output, or 70. It varies, but you're a sweaty mess when you get off.
Ugh.
Then you shower and shave.
What were you watching?
It's I use something called Zwift.
No, I said, what were you watching?
Zwift. It's
You weren't watching
basically it's
CNN or something?
no, it's like you in a video game, and the video game is London or Virginia or something called Watopia Island, and you basically are riding with other people, and they have flags over them, like here's Canada, Japan, US.
How'd you do?
I was just doing a personal training ride, so
You weren't riding with anybody?
But yesterday I did a group ride, and I was consistently 3 out of 40 people. So I was the top. I was the top guy, one of the top guys. Top guy. And by the way, even though it's a game, and I know that these people are in other parts of the world, it does get strangely competitive.
Well, that's what it's supposed to do. Keep you
Yes,
moving.
and it keeps you moving. Because some guy kept coming up next to me, and I'm like, and he had I forget the nationality. Maybe it was Spain, red, yellow, Germany, or
Was it red, yellow, black?
That's
red,
it. Red,
So
yellow.
it could have been Germany, could have been Belgium, depending
okay.
on which way the stripes are
This
going.
guy keeps coming up, and his name was Rory something, Rory C, whatever, and he'd edge past me, then I'd go a little faster, and he'd drift back.
There you go.
He gave me a thumbs up. You can do that in the game. You could actually give people something called kudo, and a little thing floats above your head.
So is it cumulative? When you get back on again, it tells you where you've gone?
Oh, it keeps all your mileage, keeps your
Logs it all in.
yeah.
Now, the rowers do that too. I was talking to somebody about that over the holidays, and the rowing is putting that into the programming as well.
I'd be curious to know how that actually. So on a bike, I slide my computer monitor over, and it's not quite perfectly in front of me, but it's close enough, and I could look around and like today's ride, I did something called Road to Ruins, RUINS, and I'd never been on this route before, and you go through a jungle, and then suddenly you're in this like weird Maya city, and weird things happen that make me laugh. Like a monkey ran across the road at one point, or swings from a tree, and you're like, what? And it's gamey, it's not bad rendering, but it's not real. So how would that work with rowing? I mean, the river's very.
Be a duck. Get in front of you, a log, branch. Bridge
But would you?
go around a bridge?
But does the scenery, like on cycling, scenery makes a difference? As you ride through an environment, you're absorbing it. But
Well,
when
with rowing,
on-
you're not allowed to look out of the boat.
You're just
because
straight
you
ahead,
throw
right?
Off the balance, even just the weight of your head.
Really?
Yeah, you just stay straight forward. Eyes in the boat, straight forward. Don't look out of the boat.
So when you were
See
doing
a
all your rowing events,
Row
you could be on the Charles. You would not necessarily know.
You'd be reprimanded if you looked out, and at the end, the coach would get really aggravated if you looked out a lot. I remember we had one kid that looked out a lot. We were in a new area. He said, did you get the surveyor's map done in your head? He was a geologist. The kid was a geologist. And he said, you've mapped the whole river up and back. You're not supposed to look out because you throw the weight off.
Even
It's all about balance.
minutely.
Yeah, you do that.
The minute you do that, it takes more energy to keep the boat, right?
Want to keep it steady. Yeah. So, yeah, you can look out.
So how would that? So if you were doing this kind of a video thing that I am doing, basically you'd be just looking straight ahead.
And you do movements like, it's that kind of movement, but together as a group. That's why I'm curious about it, because I
They
did
do
talk
offer
to
it
somebody.
for.
Yes, and I talked to somebody about what you were doing with the bike, and I said, do they have that for rowing? They said, oh, yes, they do. They said they don't think it's certainly not as popular because fewer people row.
Yeah.
So they said they're not sure it's as sophisticated as the cycling one, but They're trying to get there. I just think it would be good for somebody like myself or someone like you, particularly in the winter, if you wanted to keep it competitive and keep it moving. And if you're,
I have no excuse to not. And by the way, like the ride I did this morning, 55 minutes. It took me a good half hour for my heart rate to come back down to like non-sweaty normal. I don't even get that way on the bike when I ride outside, unless I'm riding with a group of people or a friend who's really pushing you. So I think this winter thing really is a smart. You know me. I have.
Well, the good thing about being on the bike in the house is you actually have to pedal.
Yeah.
I think when you're outside, half of it you're coasting.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that.
Right? There's a lot of coasting.
Lot of truth.
You're going down a hill.
It's micro. You brake, micro brake. Yeah, you could. It's a very different stressor on your body to do this kind of training.
Yeah, well, that's good.
All right.
What else is exciting? What are you looking at? You're looking at.
I'm looking at my notes because I was going to ask you two questions. You have Netflix, right?
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of good things about Call Me Dolomite, Eddie Murphy's movie. Have you? But I heard from like 4 people over a course of like.
Call Me Dolomite?
Call Me Dolomite. It's basically. Have you guys heard of Call Me Dolomite? Has anybody watched it?
I have.
Everyone says it's really good.
What'd you think,
I liked
Steve?
it. It was pretty good.
Someone said, a friend of mine said it was great Eddie Murphy, but it was also a charming story. Like the guy is.
Yeah, it wasn't as funny as I thought it would be, but it's still good to watch. Like it's not boring or anything.
What's the premise?
He's a comedian who's like doing shitty rooms. He's sick of so he starts doing like new material that he pulls off the street from bums, like telling stories, and it gets him famous basically. And he does a movie, and it's shitty.
And the movie had
Ray
karate.
Moore's life.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rudy Ray
What's
Moore.
that?
It's Rudy Ray Moore's life,
Rudy
Dolomite. The black
real guy.
exploitation guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was gonna be funnier, but it's actually like a good story.
All right. So that's, by the way, that's Steve, if you're not watching the video, and we have Garrett on audio who chimed in as well. They're the boys in the booth, according to our statistics, which Tim is diving deeply into, and we have Robbie Bobby in the booth as well. These people are more popular than you and I, who do all this work with the graphics and the notes.
It's about the boys in the booth. We're getting a young audience.
We're reeling them in. So the other thing that I've been told I must see, but it's only in theaters right now, is a South Korean movie called Parasite, about this family. So someone starts working for this rich Korean family.
Parasite.
And then eventually the entire family occupies positions of like chauffeur, cleaner, whatever. And then I heard there's a couple twists that no one wanted to tell me, but there's more to the movie than that. But the friend who said this, that go see it, he said, "You'll love it, but it's dubbed. It's subtitled."
I don't want to read. I'm not going to.
He said, he goes, that's the problem he had with the movie. He said, I know I shouldn't have this problem, but my eyes keep going back and forth from action to what did they just say, and you miss some of it, I guess. But
You like reading movies?
no, but later on we're going to talk about the TED Talks. I ended up reading along because they had the.
Yeah.
But no, I will say that I saw a subtitled movie recently,
Who
and
told you about that movie? Anyone I know?
no one.
All right.
But I've heard this from random folks about Parasite. We watched a subtitled movie recently. We had to stop about 20 minutes in. They were speaking so quickly that I could not keep up with the reading. And in fact, once I kept up with the reading, I wasn't paying any attention to the action. And I think, a lot of time and money goes into filming the action.
Yeah, there
right?
was something I think on Netflix a couple of years ago that somebody recommended, and I got into it in about 20 minutes, shut it off. I think it was Israeli. Something about the Mossad and the Palestinians. I forget the name of it.
You said it's documentary.
No, it was a
movie.
It was kind of like a Homeland, but it was Israel and the Palestinian conflict. It was called IDR. I forget the name of it, but I got tired of reading. I was like, I'm done. I'm out. As much as people said they loved it, same thing. It was so fast, the dialogue. And
and here's the thing I've been thinking about with that. When I was younger, I used to watch, I don't think I watched more subtitled films, but it somehow didn't bother me back then. I'm not slower reading or watching, so maybe I've just grown to be less tolerant of that experience of this up and down thing.
You're a quick reader. I can't. I have to actually sound every word out because of the way I read. So for me, it was a struggle.
Oh yeah, I could imagine
So
Hey, let's say hello to Billy. Happy New Year, Billy.
Happy New Year. Yes, the same as always it is.
I know. Billy sent me a really great photograph of him and Edmund raising their glasses of champagne around New Year's, and the light there's like little sparkles of light. It looked very festive. You guys looked very handsome, good-looking couple. So Happy New Year.
Thank you. You know, I have that thing for LED lighting, so look out for me.
I hate this. Bob is on the LED bandwagon like you wouldn't believe.
Why?
They've gotten really good. They're cool to the touch. You never get burned by touching an LED bulb, and they're very energy efficient.
Well, Trump says he's getting rid of them.
He's getting rid of
keep the incandescent bulb. Huh?
It makes you very orange.
That's what he said.
Did you guys have a good New Year?
It was just us. It was quiet in Beacon and ambient lighting, and watched everything go on. And you know, I've been on the wounded list. I fell down a set of stairs for Christmas, so I've kind of been a little slow.
Billy, what's going on? What happened?
I'm getting to be an old curmudgeon. I can't walk down icy stairs without falling.
Well, I can't down. I think the minute you put the word ice into anything, it's problematic, right?
Well, as my friends say, you're getting old.
No, I just think you had an accident. But are you bruised up, or are you doing okay?
Oh, God, yeah. I heard things crack. I said, well, I didn't hear anything break, but I heard things crack, and oh, boy. Yeah.
Man, oh, man.
Yeah, well,
You got to take care of yourself. It's a new year.
Yeah, Tim, they have a program for the rowing for, like, you know, with bicycles and flying. You can do that with rowing, too, huh?
That's what I was told. I was down. We have at my boat club, we have a holiday dinner, which is one of the few times I show up. And and I was talking about this, and that's why I asked John about the rowers. So yeah, my guess is every sport will eventually have something like that, right? Because golf had the games.
Oh my God! Well, cycling is unique in that it's just the bike.
Yeah.
It's this.
Well, you could kind of equate it to doing a Peloton kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, that's right. It's like Peloton.
Yeah.
So now you could take Peloton anywhere. You could run with it. You know, you could put it on your iPad. But normally, they want you to buy the expensive Peloton bike, etc.
Well, you have to be a skinny girl to have it first.
Oh, I love that whole kerfuffle over the holidays. I mean, boy, they must have gotten a lot of business out of that, right?
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of Netflix since I've been laid up. I did The Fabulous Mrs. Maisel. Watched that to the end. Did Lost in Space and The Tick.
All right. So I read a review about Lost in Space second season. The critics said you'll enjoy it, but it's sort of forgettable. I don't know if that's true or not because we haven't watched.
Yeah, it kind of goes in a different direction, but
that's what he said. He said they could have gone in any number of directions, but the one they took it in, they weren't quite sure about. And then The Tick, I've heard some really great things about. Did you like it?
Yeah, it had a cliffhanger ending too. You know, I know from a different genre when it was on before. It was written a little differently, but we watched it. We finished the whole thing out. And then, of course, Mrs. Maisel. Well, that had a very good ending.
Billy, while we have you on the phone, and Tim and the boys in the booth, do you guys know John Mulvaney, the comedian?
I know of him. I don't think I've seen his.
John Mulaney, like this.
I'm sorry, John Mulaney.
Okay,
It's John
yeah,
Mulaney.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Steve. Thank you. Bob and I were kind of like, Netflix is one of these things, I think we all agree. There's just endless things, scrolling. Well, I was scrolling along and I see this thing that you might be interested in, and it's called John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. It's a children's musical comedy special created by John Mulaney that debuted at the end of the year last year. It's kind of a riff on Sesame Street, The Electric Company, and The Great Space Coaster. By the end of this 1 hour and 4 minute show, I cried. I was tear stained from laughter. It's not consistently hilarious, but when it does go from 4, it goes to 15. We had to pause this thing. And did we just hear this? Did they just sing that?
Is it for adults?
Yes, most certainly it's for adults. So, Billy, put this on your list. It's the John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch children's special. Bob went to work, mentioned it to some friends. This coworker said, she goes, we were crying, we were laughing so hard.
Sack Lunch Bunch.
Just look for John Mulaney and you'll see the sack. And it's that sappy kids special thing. However, we paused it at one point, and I said, "Is this as subversive as I think it is?"
Well, RuPaul's got his show coming up Friday, I believe.
Who does?
RuPaul on Netflix.
Is it a comedy special?
No, he was on CBS this morning. I didn't quite catch what it's about, but it's much more serious and geared towards what his life is really like.
Oh, really? So this is not his talk show that only went for a little bit, and it's not being renewed. This is like a RuPaul biopic or something, right?
Yeah, it's well made. We're definitely going to catch that next time we're snowed in.
Yeah.
Iced in.
Well, I know. Billy, here's the deal. You've had this bad accident with the ice. Upstate, it's bone dry again. It went from that crazy doubleheader snowstorm to Thanksgiving, and now it's going to be like 50 some degrees on Saturday, right?
Yeah, warm. Record warm.
It's constantly ice, and it's like North Carolina winter. It's no fun.
Billy, that is so true. It's a North Carolina winter. I have to remember that. I was in Winston-Salem once doing a consulting job, and it was the winter, and they never really got snow, but they did get ice. All right, we're going to move on with the show, my friend. Thank you for calling, and Happy New Year.
Happy
See you,
New Year.
Billy.
I'll catch your kids later.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, now it's time for Caught Your Eye. Tim, what caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
In my effort to continue to bash San Francisco.
Well, it's not like you set out to do this.
No, but this was the
But
headline.
the headlines come up, yeah.
The headline came up, and John and I have talked about San Francisco a lot. And I counted how many times I've been to the city since 1992, 91, 92, and probably over 50 trips. And I will say that it's gotten progressively worse. In my last trip to San Francisco, I could understand why this headline says what it does. And although a lot of people, it's a beautiful city, it does have its issues, and our president, of course, has made light of it with Nancy Pelosi. This headline is estimated $64 million loss as San Francisco's poor street conditions drive high-cost events outside the city. So Oracle is the latest to leave. Oracle is based in San Francisco, but they do a open world conference which hosts about 60,000 people. And for the first time in 2 decades, they're moving it to Las Vegas. And they said after the event, they had asked people what the issue was. So they had done a feedback study or a feedback survey with people that attended the event and said, "How was the Oracle Open World Conference?" And they said the attendee feedback was the hotel rates were too high. That's any big city in the U.S.
Yeah, I agree.
But they said the biggest issue were poor street conditions, which were poor street conditions. They said it was a very difficult decision for them to leave. They said that they're just not one of the latest. They said a doctors group, the San Francisco Medical Association, also pulled its convention in 2018. The doctors group told San Francisco leadership that they love the city, but the post-convention survey showed that members were afraid to walk amid the open drug use, threatening behavior, and mental illness that's common on the streets, along with the tent cities. And last year they said a UC Berkeley researcher found that some parts of San Francisco were more unsanitary than many dwellings in impoverished developing countries. They did a survey of 158 city blocks, and they encountered more than 300 piles of human feces and 100 plus improperly discarded needles. So they said that San Francisco really needs to get their act together. They said this is now taking a huge toll. They're going to lose $64 million just on hotel by Oracle moving the convention to Vegas.
And those are just like room nights and people coming to the city.
Nights, right. So 60,000 people. So they're moving this other medical convention and moved in 2018. They said they're expecting to lose more. But I will say, and I know I've gotten bashed online, but I will say it, the city should be ashamed of itself. Last time John and I were there, we were shocked walking around.
It was an eye-opener to me.
And I said, I can't imagine if I came here from another country, and this was my first impression of the United States, or I came here from other parts of the United States. San Francisco is viewed as one of our most beautiful cities.
Gorgeous.
It is a beautiful city, but the fact that they've allowed what is going on around the tourist areas is beyond me, with these tent cities being accosted by people for money, The open drug use, the needle exchanges. To me, it's just
Here's what
crazy. And my friends, I'll say one thing. My friends who live in San Francisco tell me it's my imagination. Not my imagination. I've been there over 50
not your.
times.
They've said it's your
They
man.
said it's not that bad. I said, you don't see it.
Now-
When you and I were there with one of our clients, she ordered an extra meal to give to the people on the streets. She
And
couldn't believe
and
did it
then
in New York
and
and
by the way,
couldn't
she
find anybody.
did the same thing 3 months later in New York when we had dinner with her, and she couldn't even give it away because. Now that's not to say that we don't have a bad homeless problem.
No.
I don't even know. Just intellectually, I don't even know where you begin to attack this problem, and I am sure that the San Francisco legislature, their elected officials, are desperately trying to figure it out.
Maybe. It's been going on a long time. It's been going on for quite a while. I mean, when I first started going there in 1990, 92, and then progressively.
What was the what was the area that we stayed at? That was it the Tenderloin they called it?
Tenderloin, which was about 4
That's
blocks.
always been
rough.
Yeah.
But to walk in front of the Uber headquarters or the headquarters of Twitter and seeing these tent cities out front, and I used to go run in the mornings, and I'd be accosted at 6 o'clock in the morning, people jumping out at me looking for money.
And we had a unique experience on our last joint trip to San Francisco because we were test driving an electric vehicle for Volkswagen, and we couldn't plug the car anywhere in, but we could do it at the dealership. Yeah. And the dealer was actually about a 15-minute walk from where we stayed, and that went right through all the worst of it. And I don't know. I have talked to people who are longtime residents, and they agree with you, but they themselves say, we just don't even know where you begin to tackle this problem. If you raise taxes even more, which they're insane.
Well, there's too much disparity between the haves and have-nots.
Have-nots, yeah.
And the high-tech, I think the high-tech companies there, the Silicon Valley, need to
step up
and start investing in the city and affordable housing and all the other issues. But because they said an average 2-bedroom in San Francisco is $3,600, just an okay average 2-bedroom apartment
to rent.
So that's so if you think about that, and the weather's nice generally. So if you're going to be homeless, great place to be homeless.
Well, wasn't there? I don't know if it's urban legend or if it's truth, but L.A. used to give bus tickets to their homeless to literally ship them up to. Was that true?
They said that Minneapolis and Minnesota and Minneapolis and Milwaukee would trade that. They would say Minneapolis would give you a one-way ticket to Milwaukee because they knew that the social services in Wisconsin would be better, or vice versa. Who knows whether that really happened? But you move it along. It is an issue in Philadelphia now. The mayor has won another re-election. At the inauguration, they're trying to figure out how to control the panhandling and the increased amount of people that if you go to a nice restaurants in the areas of Philadelphia, you don't want to leave and be accosted and feel bad about going out to dinner.
Yeah.
So, but that happens in some of these cities. But I just thought that San Francisco thing was just something else again, which was another black eye on the city that they need
on a beautiful city. Well, mine is a very different, caught my eye. At the end of the year, we usually get a lot of in memoriams and a lot of tributes or those slideshows of everybody who's passed away, Hollywood figures. And it actually is striking to me because in amongst that, there's usually a cluster of deaths that happen right around Christmas or New Year's. And I read the other day in the Hollywood Reporter about the death of one of my favorite artists, a guy named Sid Mead, visionary conceptual artist behind Blade Runner and Tron. He died at the age of 86. Sid Mead was the self-proclaimed visual futurist and conceptual artist who shaped the look of Blade Runner, Aliens, and Tron, among other projects. He was 86, as I said earlier.
So he drew these?
He was hired by the studios to come up with, if you're watching on our video feed, we have a picture of Sid Mead, and next to him is a picture of a car he designed for the movie Blade Runner. It's called a Spinner. Across a wide-ranging, decades-long career, the visual futurist designed cars, worked on Aliens and 2 Japanese films. He was born in 1933 in St. Paul, Minnesota. He grew up in a fairly normal home. He was in the military for a while, but then he went to the Art Center School in Los Angeles, now called the Art Center College of Design. He went on to design cars at the Ford Motor Company in their advanced styling studio for 2 years before he struck out on his own.
He looked like a Taurus.
Yeah. Well, he had car in his blood before. He started his own company, Sid Mead Inc., and from the 1970s to the 80s, he worked for Philips Electronics and created architectural renderings for companies including Intercontinental Hotels and Don Gia. After his work caught the eye of Hollywood, though, Mead went on to produce conceptual artwork and other products on films, including 1979's Star Trek The Motion Picture, 82's Blade Runner, 1982's Tron, 86's Aliens, 84's Time Cop, 2000's Mission to Mars, 2006 Mission Impossible, Elysium, he did Tomorrowland, and the recent Blade Runner 2049. Now, here's something...
It's not a picture that he's...
That's just that's one of his architectural renderings for like a future hotel or a future city. Now, the picture that I've included here in the video feed, what was notable about this, not only I'm a big Sid Mead fan in general from a conceptual, I just love the artwork he creates, but here's how I saved this part for the last. Mead died Monday at his home in Pasadena after a 3-year battle with lymphoma. His spouse and business partner, Roger Cervic, told The Hollywood Reporter. I had no idea he was gay. And the way they treated it was so... His spouse, it would be like,
Was that him there with him?
Sid Mead's on the left in that kind of paisley shirt, and his partner, his spouse, Roger Cervic's on the right. And I just thought, wow, this guy, I've known this guy's work since I was in high school, and he's been on all these big movies, or he conceptualized stuff. And to have that written that way, as his spouse informed us that he passed away, I thought that was really cool. So he was gay, and then he eventually, obviously, got married. So very interesting.
That is interesting because I guess his personal life probably was never talked about.
Never, ever, ever. No. And you know what? Why would it be?
Yeah.
When he would go to conventions, or he was doing stuff for the studios, or when he did books, because he had beautiful art books that came out too. When he did book signing tours and stuff like that, it would never be part of the thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that's not only did his death catch my eye, but the way they so beautifully put that in there in the third paragraph. After a battle with his spouse and business partner Roger Cervic. So very cool. So we're gonna miss Sid Mead.
Sid Mead, gone.
He coined the term visual futurist, which I like.
I often wonder why all that stuff's gray.
Oh, you mean like for renderings and stuff?
Yeah, like Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff. Everything's gray. Like Battleship gray.
Except the planet of Tatooine, which is orange and brown because it's desert.
It's
right?
Dune. Dune. If you want to just watch an orange movie. I got stuck with that in Seattle.
They should put that on IMDb for the description of, if you want to watch an orange movie, tune in. That's the one with Kyle MacLachlan, that terrible movie.
Horrible movie.
Dino De Laurentiis. Yeah, it's an amazing book. Very hard to turn into a movie, but...
Business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Today's January 8th. January 8th, 1904, Walter Dimer was born. He also died January 8th. Imagine he died on his birthday. 1998 at 94 years old.
I wonder how often that's actually happened. I bet there's a stat for
Check that out. He was an accountant who in 1928 invented bubble gum.
Not just bubblegum. What's that, double bubble?
Double bubble. So he was an accountant, and he worked for the Fleer Corporation, F-L-E-E-R. And it says in the bio here, it says, people have been chewing gum-like substances for fun for centuries. But commercially produced bubble gum was a problem because it didn't hold its flavor. It was too sticky. The texture was too dense. And you couldn't blow bubbles, and if you did, it would get on your clothes and ruin them. So this Frank Fleer, who died in 1921, he was the founder of Fleer Corporation, but he dreamed of bubble gum and blowing bubbles with bubble gum or whatever, and just could never get the formula down right. So Dimer gets hired there as an accountant after this Frank Fleer dies. And they said, although he had no experience with chemistry or confections or any of that sort of thing, he was an accountant, he would at lunchtime go down to the kitchens and play around with this formula. And they said that by kind of doing his own little chemistry experience through trial and error, he found the missing ingredient for bubble gum, and it was a natural form of latex. So he said by
whoa. A natural form of latex.
So he said by adding a little latex to the recipe, it allowed bubbles to expand smoothly and let the exploded bubble of gum be peeled off, close easily in the skin. He discovered this in 1928, and so Fleer, he made 100 pieces of it on a saltwater taffy machine and brought it down to a mom and pop.
Oh, that's why it was twirled on both. Yeah.
Brought it to a mom and pop candy store, and it all sold out in one day. It was 1 penny, sold 100 pieces in one day. Do you know why it's pink?
Is that part of the? Is it naturally pink, or did they?
No, it was the only food coloring they had that day. So most bubblegum's all pink. Can you imagine? I wonder what it would have been if it was...
If the only color they had was blue or green. Yeah. Oh, my God.
We always think of pink bubblegum, right?
Yeah.
Bubble pink. So it was pink because that's the
I
only
want to
food
go back
color.
to this natural latex thing for a minute. Did they identify, like, what is natural...
Chickle?
Is that what they call it?
That's what I'm calling it.
You're calling it, like for chiclets?
Yeah, chickle. Isn't chickle what you used to chew naturally for chewing gum?
I don't know. I'm going to... now I'm curious.
Chicle. Isn't it chickle?
Maybe. I mean, but
Maybe
the concept of the word natural and latex in the same sentence just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, but...
He never patented the idea.
Oh,
Whereas
boy.
Double Bubble made millions of dollars on it. He said it didn't bother him, though, because he said he had done something with his life, and he made kids happy all around the world. And so they said the gum was pink because it was the only food coloring he had at the factory. And they said compared to standard chewing gum, as we said, it was less sticky. They began marketing it as Double Bubble. And so Dahmer's job was to go around to all these different places to show people how to blow bubbles.
That was his job? Okay.
Point. He had to demonstrate how this Double Bubble differed from other chewing gums. They sold it for a penny a piece forever. Sales surpassed 1.5 million in the first year, and they said it was a very popular, inexpensive treat during the Great Depression. According to his second wife, he never received any royalty, but he was obviously a superstar at the Fleer Company. He oversaw the construction of bubblegum plants in Philadelphia and Barcelona, Spain, and he stayed there for decades until he retired in 1970. Following the death of his first wife, he rode around his Pennsylvania retirement village on a big tricycle distributing bubblegum to kids in honor of his wife. He died of congested heart failure in Lancaster, PA on his 94th birthday in 1998. Saturday Night Live honored him and they joked that his body was found stuck under a movie theater seat.
That's a funny little line.
Happy birthday, Walter.
So
Dahmer.
I'm guessing that...
Dahmer. Is that how you'd say Dahmer?
Yeah, I'd say it that way, yeah. Double Bubble, did it do better, I wonder, than Bazooka?
Well, these other ones came out afterwards then.
I remember Double Bubble being softer.
Yeah.
I remember Bazooka being so hard it could break your teeth.
And had a comic.
It had the comic wrapped around it, that little thing that our children's eyes could see it perfectly. I need a magnifying glass today, but Double Bubble was the better bubble gum in my opinion. If we got that, we were happy.
And Double Bubble also had the gum balls.
Yes.
And different things, and the company's still going. So we got to invent something.
We're working on it.
Is there a candy you can invent, you think?
Look what our friends did with Schnappers.
Yeah.
Pretzel, what was that? Pretzel, chocolate,
Caramel.
sea salt,
Everyone's
and caramel. Yeah.
But I wonder, it's like we talked about that pillow guy. How tough is it to make a pillow?
Apparently, you just take
think
a
it's all
bag
marketing.
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
So, hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a couple of shop talks we want to cover with you. One of them is related to 4 goals that will make 2020 your sharpest and healthiest year yet. And then also we're going to cover some TED Talks that were recommended for us to all listen to get us off on the right foot. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
So you want to do the...
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Now I'm back. Okay, and during break, Garrett brought us Double Bubble.
Double Bubble.
And and you're chewing right now, right? Double Bubble. And indeed, it does look like a piece of taffy. It's just like I remember it as a kid.
It's made in Canada now.
And Tim says, I love gum.
Dude, it's just made in Canada.
This particular batch might have been, but you said they had a plant near Philadelphia, right?
Well, apparently it's been bought by some Illinois company. This one's made in Canada.
All right, moving along. Thank you, Garrett, for the Double Bubble. I like this. We have two quick shop talks for you. The first one is from Inc. magazine, and I thought it was interesting because of the goals that they in fact chose for this. It's 4 goals to make 2020 your sharpest, healthiest, and best year yet. We saw a lot of that stuff come out around the end of 2019. And the article, the author actually kicks off by saying the first resolution alone is worth your entire and full commitment. I could not agree more. So the first piece of advice out of these 4 is identify and attack toxicity. The 2 basic ways to continually weed out more forms of toxicity for health and mental clarity are to set clear boundaries and to replace new habits with old ones. That could also be people.
I don't understand this one so much, but I guess this was just to be...
Eliminate bad things.
Bad things. Get rid of the negative.
Toxicity, yeah.
Number 2 is make swaps. Routines are hard to break, but often you can gain drastic physical, mood, and cognitive benefits simply from tweaking what you already do. Sounds like a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
So it says to find one small boost to give yourself each week. For instance, if you always had toast and jelly, maybe do wheat toast.
Exact. Change the bread. Don't do and it's small little things that add up, right? Yes, I agree.
If you did one every week, you'd have 52.
52 changes, yeah.
You think you could do 52 changes? I was wondering about that.
Well,
myself. I don't know if I could.
It's a really good question,
It's a lot of
actually.
changes. I guess you do one thing a week. If you said you're not going to eat,
But then you have to sit down and really think about it too.
A lot of work.
You'd be like, I'm going to exchange this for this. I'm going to use edamame pasta instead of pasta.
that's one.
There you go. That's 1 week down in Tim's world. This one I starred and circled. Be a learner and practice. We were talking about your piano possibilities. Yep. I can't agree with this more. Ensuring you learn something each day, however small, gives your brain new data and can shift your perspective and influence both creativity and decision making. I actually read a blog a week. It's not every week, but it's close to it. One of my old animation mentors named James Chang has a blog called Animated Spirit. I highly recommend it, even if you're not an animation artist or an artist in general, but it's just really wonderfully written, fun, like interesting. You stop and you think after you read it. You're like, wow, okay. And it's even something like that. Be a learner. Just read.
Yeah, or watch the focus group and listen to TFGM Button. You learn something. Listen, laugh, and learn.
Very good.
I put in the notes on this one. Don't most people do this? Because it said include in your routine reading articles on your commute to work or subway, gym, or whatever. But I thought generally, don't most people search out or don't you read the paper or peruse the paper each day or news?
I do. What I've noticed on the subway lately, though, maybe it's not lately at all. Maybe this has just been happening. But with the smartphone, it's games, it's music.
Really?
I still see people reading books, and I still see a lot of people doing Kindle or using their smartphone to read articles. But to me, commuting is perfect reading time.
Do you still use your Kindle?
Yeah. Sometimes it's and I find that to be it's more of a book-like experience because you only do one thing with Kindle. You could read. You can't switch array. But I use my iPad way more for reading than the Kindle. Yeah, every day.
Number 4 was get your sleep schedule on track. Everybody talks about this. Make sure that you're getting a good night's sleep. Could be very healthy for you. I like a TV in my room, although they say cut out electronics at least 1 hour before bed, and also don't have them on in the room because the light will be distracting and overload.
That blue light, yeah, it's very toxic.
You have a TV in your bedroom?
No,
I have a TV in the bedroom.
Not allowed. Well, we had that whole
I know.
So those are four quickies, four ways to set some goals. Identify and attack toxicity, make swaps, be a learner, and practice, and get your sleep schedule on track, and get your sleep environment on track, I'll put there as well. Another article we came across, and we watched all 5 of these, and it's going to be curious to see where we landed, but I read an article that sequestered or pulled together the 5 best TED Talks. The TED are those really high-end talks, usually 20 minutes. Now they've been cut down to 13 or 12. Let's do this. The talks are the following. What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the Longest Study on Happiness by Robert Waldinger. Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator by Tim Urban. How Craving Attention Makes You Less Creative by the actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt. How to Build Your Confidence and Spark It in Others by Brittany Packnett. And Your Elusive Creative Genius by Elizabeth Gilbert. Now, do you have a favorite out of any of these?
Yep.
Well, what was it?
I'm not playing the game with you because you
I'll tell you mine
like
first then.
groupthink.
No, I'll tell you mine first then.
I'll tell you why you're wrong.
So my 2 favorites were Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator by Tim Urban, and the second one was How Craving Attention Makes You Less Creative by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Wow.
Are yours not even?
Those are my 2 least favorite.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I thought they were horrible.
Really?
Yeah. I liked the first one, which was What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the Longest Study on Happiness.
Which could have been told in 3 minutes.
I don't even want to go into the procrastinator one, how horrible that was, that you picked. The other one, it was How to Build Confidence.
You like that one?
Right.
She said the word confidence about 50 times during that talk. I only need to hear it once.
Okay. What are my notes?
Change the world, do this, do that, right?
Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. First of all, you and I are procrastinators.
We're the kind of procrastinator. So he broke it into, by the way, listeners, he broke this into 2 categories. People who procrastinate and rush to get something in on a deadline. I believe that's the kind of procrastinators we are. We know we have a paper due, and he used the example of writing a thesis.
We have a healthy relationship with the deadline.
Yeah, but the other form of procrastination that he discovered was when he did a blog post about this exact thing, about trying to get your stuff done earlier. People would send in or write comments about how procrastinations ruin their life. And that second part was, I'm not happy, or I hate my job, but I just don't have the inertia to get out of it, and waiting to change your life, that's a form of procrastination. And that's why I thought it was an interesting contrast between, I'll get it done later, or the typewriter broke, or you're in an unhappy relationship, you hate whatever it is, and you just don't have the momentum to change it. So I like that.
Wow. Okay. I didn't like that one at all. I thought expected something different from it. That's the one thing I will say about all 5 of these, is I think they were too long. They could have made their points quicker, but that's TED. Sometimes I felt like I was getting a academic lecture, and I also felt that I was left with a lot of them saying, "What's the point?" And my point with the procrastinator one, I expected to get some sort of...
Oh, yes.
What's the point? And so
he did not give you... you have a great point. I enjoyed him exposing 2 ideas of procrastination, but there was not one itch of a solution in there about how do you make yourself less of a lifetime, like the deadline procrastination versus life. You're right. There was no actionable...
There's no takeaway. And that's why I like the first one. And I'd seen this one before. So the first one was What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the Longest Study. So apparently back in 1934, Harvard started this study. And of all the people, the 700 people they've started talking to, 60 are still alive. And every year since 1938, They go through a series of batteries with these questions from different socioeconomic areas.
They physically visit the people, too.
And whereas they said they asked the question, what would millennials want to have a successful life? They say fame and
money,
fortune, right?
Fame and fortune, yeah.
But they said that they found a theme here, whether people were wealthy and regardless of education, whatever, that people that were happiest are the ones that had good relationships.
Not only with spouses, but with friends. In
Overall,
fact,
they had good networks and good
his was one of the best paced talks, and I thought it was perfectly timed, because when he gets to the crescendo where he says, and guess what? Here's what we found out.
Right.
The secret to longevity and happiness is relationships. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about career. It wasn't about money. It was about maintaining, strong friendships and
right, and not the number of friends, but the quality.
The quality of it, yeah.
And so I liked that one. The other one you liked, How to Crave Attention.
How craving attention makes you less creative.
Attention makes you less creative. I thought it had nothing to do with creativity, but all about what's going on with social media. That was my takeaway from it. So this guy is an actor.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
and he talks about how he started a blog, or he was more concerned about getting followers, getting likes rather than...
Which is craving attention.
Right.
As opposed to when he's really happiest, he's paying attention. So he had this routine where it's like rolling, sound, light, camera, action since he's on. He said it's that sequence, then the minute the director says action, he's paying attention to his scene partners, he's paying attention to what he's doing, he's collaborating with his other actors. I see where this one might have been problematic for you. I get that.
I think that was a shot.
No, not really, but to me this was subtle. It was probably too subtle. So when people are running around and they're posting videos online and they're trying to get likes and clicks and thumbs up and all that, his whole basic thought is, don't mistake that for creativity. That's just someone pouring crap out to get attention, but it's not fulfilling. The fulfilling part for him was paying attention to his world and his moment that he was in.
Well, I missed that takeaway.
Which then would mean that it's not the greatest talk in the world, because you didn't walk away with that.
And then the one that I liked that you didn't pick was How to Build Confidence. And what I liked, this was an African American teacher.
She was good.
And she did talk about the issue of being seen, but how confidence is missing from the equation of life. She said, we all have now lots of ability to have resources or knowledge because of how technology is. But they said particularly in kids, and she had an inner city class of kids of color, and she talked about how, whereas they could have resources and knowledge, a lot of times if they did not see people like themselves, or that they weren't encouraged, that confidence was missing. And she broke it down to 3 areas. She said confidence needs permission to exist, community...
And curiosity was one of them?
Right. Well, community can...
support.
Can support confidence, and curiosity will confirm it. And so took too long to get there, again, I think.
And we're talking about talks that were 13 to 15 minutes, yeah.
Now, I will say, the last one, neither of us picked. And it's known as the greatest, what did they say? One of the most famous TED Talks of all time.
You're not kidding, right?
Writer Elizabeth Gilbert discusses the precariousness of creativity and suffering being inextricably linked, and how artists and their support systems can better manage the emotional risks of creativity. And that one was 19 minutes. I thought I was listening to a bad NPR piece. And she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. Eat, Pray, Love. And it was a long way to go to talk about showing up. I mean, at the end of it, all you have to do in any of these TED Talks is go to the last minute. Because that's the point.
Do you see how the system gets gamed? All you have to do...
After listening to these 5 TED Talks, and I'll tell the listeners, we'll post them, just go to the last minute. That's all you need to do. Last minute sums it up. But... she went on to ancient Greece and talking about Romans and talking about all this craziness.
All right, so, yeah, okay.
What? Did you like this one?
I enjoyed
one of the best TED Talks of all time.
I don't think I would put it as one of the best. I've seen others that I enjoy far more than, but I do like what she was saying, which is, so she has been a writer all her life. She wrote and then they had published Eat, Pray, Love. It became a monster worldwide hit. Yay, we're happy. But her life after that became, how are you going to do it again?
Yeah.
How are you going to do it again? What's your next book? Are you going to be as big as Eat, Pray, Love? And her whole talk goes about like how we think of creativity and output. I don't know. And maybe as a creative director and as someone who fancies himself an artist, that wasn't
Is this one you read?
I did read this. I didn't do I read the transcript.
Watch the video.
Okay.
Because it gets religious too.
Because what
talks to God a lot.
What Tim's talking about is like I had a commute. I was going to go downtown, and I thought I could actually watch some of these on my commute, but I couldn't download it. But I hit the transcript button, and it's a perfect transcript. So it took quite a while to read this one because 19 minutes of spoken time means you got to. So it was, but of course I read it with my own internal voice, right? So it wasn't about, I didn't get the whole stage thing.
It was as if somebody said you have to do a thesis on something, you got to fill 20 minutes. And she filled it. And at the end of the day, it was sometimes you just have a job to do and it's important to show up.
It's important to show up.
But that's not really what I thought the message was. Anyway. But I think these TED Talks are cool. I like them. I will tell you the two best TED Talks that I've seen recently are done by the same person. And I don't know if you've seen them, you should watch them. Chip Kidd.
Oh, I love Chip Kidd.
He was on our show when we were on Sirius XM and helped Lisa Birnbach with the True Prep book. He does two, which I think are, he talks about designing book covers, and the other one talks about more simplicity or art around us or something. But both of them I thought were so well done and to the point, and I should post those as well. These I was surprised. I don't know why we don't come out with our own list of 10 or 5. Maybe we should do our own list of TED Talks that we think, because you and I have seen other TED Talks we like. If you were to do a TED Talk, what would you do it about?
Now, that's a great question, and I've been puzzling about that since I watched the 5 of these, actually.
Right. What would it, you don't know what it would be?
No. Maybe I'll do what Don suggested. We have Don on the phone from Alabama, and Don, your airport became the first to be cleared for space flight. I love it. I'm coming down to Rocket City.
The Huntsville International Airport will soon have its name changed to the Huntsville International Airport and Spaceport as the first FAA-designated airport to allow the landing of spacecraft.
Oh, Don, I love this. You guys are so lucky to have a spaceport next door, right?
If you fly out of Newark, it's $100 cheaper. Where are you flying to?
But you don't get the miles.
You don't get the miles, right?
Where are you flying to?
I believe this first designation is probably for Blue Origin or some of the shuttle-like replacement aircraft that will need a 1.4-mile or greater runway. That's the other thing about the Huntsville International Airport is it has one of the longest runways in the country, third only to Groom Lake or what they call Area 51.
So you should really be our sister city, Don. New York and Huntsville. So you have the longest runway. We have one of the shortest runways at least in the U.S. at LaGuardia. We'd be sister cities.
That's right. Because there's nothing I love more than landing at LaGuardia and holding on tight.
Where are they? I don't understand where you're flying to.
No, low Earth orbit.
Where you're flying from.
Yeah, low Earth orbit.
Right, but so if I take off out of Huntsville, am I going to get to go somewhere?
No, this would be like if you got launched on a space plane from, like, say, Cape Canaveral. Huntsville is actually cleared for a craft that's a wing, like the old shuttle with a winged landing, and they need that length to slow down.
Not only that, John, it's also cleared if the craft is space-bound, you can depart out of Huntsville International Airport when they begin to develop reusable aircraft that can runway takeoff and runway land.
Oh, okay. So that's different. That's sort of like what Virgin Galactic's doing with that that transport thing, and then the pod drops off and goes further. Where are they going? No, Tim, there's nowhere to go
Did the shuttle do that?
The shuttle had to be launched on a rocket, piggyback style.
So the shuttle couldn't just take off and get up there?
Not on its own. It had to have a...
Not on its own.
Yeah. But where is everybody going? They're going to... This is like space tourism. It's low Earth orbit. It's barely... In fact, I would say there's still a hint of atmosphere up there when they're at some of these altitudes. It's...
Yeah, if you're a purist, it's extremely very low Earth orbit.
Correct, yeah. So, like Blue Origin is Jeff Bezos. His very quiet, not like SpaceX. And
they built a massive 1.4 million square foot engine plant here in Huntsville that's opening this year.
Wow. So, Bezos has been developing Blue Origin for a while, and it's the idea is to use the same device to get you into orbit and to land like SpaceX does.
Well, how come we just don't go up and fly higher so we can get there faster?
Because there's no air up there. There's no air pressure
for the wings
differential for a wing to function.
Yeah.
So if I went up to 50 or 60,000 feet in an airplane, can it do that?
Yes, an airplane can go up to 97,500 feet plus or minus, depending on atmospheric conditions.
So why do we do it?
Well, they do it.
They do it. That's the SR-71 used to fly it.
No, I want to fly to L.A. in like an hour from New York.
Oh, Tim you know what he wants?
Get up and over.
Down. He wants to go up into orbit and then down to
Yeah. No, what he wants is the Elon Musk's rocket tubes that will cross the continent in 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
At 585 or 985 miles an hour.
I had a friend of mine flew a fighter jet coast to coast. It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. Get on the 747, shoot across.
The fastest coast-to-coast coverage that I recall is 2 hours and 52 minutes in the SR-71 Blackbird.
Well, that's pretty fast. That sure beats 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, but, there's that whole spacesuit, and don't expect to bring any luggage issue.
And no iPads allowed, and there's no drinks on that plane.
Yeah, a little turbulence. No, I didn't know all that. I just don't know why we don't fly higher to get there quicker.
Tim's got beef with technology and space.
I'd be a good president.
Oh boy!
NASA, get in here. I want to go higher and faster, quicker.
Well, higher does not equate to faster.
Quicker.
Higher does not equate to quicker.
Okay.
A ballistic trajectory is not necessarily is the shortest distance between 2 points, even with acceleration. What you want are faster what you want is the FAA to clear for supersonic flight.
Yes. Which
they won't do because of the impacts of sonic booms on structures and the ground. But you can Boeing has on multiple occasions tried to reprototype a passenger supersonic aircraft that'll do Mach 2.5, which will get you from, that gets you from New York to L.A. in 4 hours.
I'd take that too. And
who cares if you make a bang over Nebraska?
Because you're not making the bang over Nebraska. You're making the bang pretty close to the airport you took off from.
Yeah. It's the bang in Manhattan that takes out the windows of the skyscrapers that people for some reason object to.
Yeah, Don, like that weird Hancock building.
3 o'clock to L.A.
There's a building that was built in Boston, the Hancock Tower. They didn't do the glass right, and every time the wind would do something, it would pull the windows out, and they would shatter on the church below. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we want to avoid those kind of things. But, like I say, I know we talked about Huntsville a few weeks ago. I just wanted to add that we now have the designation of being the first commercial spaceport, passenger spaceport aircraft.
Well, that's great.
Airport.
In many ways, if I weren't so rooted to my current city, it would be almost enough to make me move because I just love the idea of saying to someone, take a left at the spaceport and a right at the Red Barn.
That's right. And you can literally do both at the Huntsville
International Airport and Spaceport. Yeah. Hey, Don, thank you. Happy New Year. Thanks for being a part of our show and for kicking off. And we'll do another Mr. Science class very soon. Tim learns much.
I think I'd be a good Thank you. I think I'd be a good president because I would ask the question, then I get an answer, and then I move on.
I would ask the question.
I just want to know why we can't go faster. I'm going to make a boom.
I could just see your chief of staff running around the White House right now. The president wants to know why we can't go from L.A. to New York in 4 hours. I don't know. What do we tell him? Get the head of NASA in here. I mean, I could just imagine it now.
Well, you might be.
You know what would happen?
You might be chief of staff.
If you would
be the one that has to answer the question.
And if you were president, you would have Don be your head of NASA.
Yeah, Don would be head of NASA.
You would get him on the phone and say, Don, what's going on? And then there'd be a PowerPoint deck that would arrive that would show you about the air density and lift.
Don, come on. And you and Don would have a sidebar, and I'd be bored, and I'd go into the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. Thank you, John. Thanks for Don. Thanks to Billy for joining us on our first show of 2020. Thanks to our boys in the booth, Garrett, Steve, and Robbie Bobby back there. We hope everyone has a good week. Be sure to catch our Tuesday podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. And remember to don't text or drive, arrive alive. Did I forget something?
No.
I keep forgetting. I got to thank you, Deep Discount.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.